It is March 27th, 2023. This is Atlanta United FC Weekly, a Home Before Dark podcast.
You really need to watch that on YouTube if you're just listening to the audio.
I know I said I was just going to do special cocktails for Atlanta United wins, but considering the fashion in which they lost in a complete beatdown smoke show, I figured I would do the smoked Negroni tonight for the Atlanta United defeat.
Yep, we were well and truly smoked on that game. Oh, man. I really thought we were going to be better than what we were.
Yeah. Somebody cue up the playback of like, why is Tim going? Why is everybody so afraid of Columbus? They've not done anything. Just play it on the loop. To those of you tuning in, thank you so much for doing so. You will recognize that we are without Tim tonight. Thoughts to him and his family. Just got some personal stuff going on, but he will be back. So Dan and I will be here to commiserate together and break down all of the events that transpired over this past weekend, of which there were a lot, and unfortunately not a lot in Atlanta's favor.
Yep, that was an absolute garbage performance. I haven't seen us play a worse game, I think.
Yeah.
To the scoreline, I mean, I keep on seeing the tweets like it's the biggest loss in Atlanta United history. And it's like, well, it's not going to be the last time that we ship 6 goals. I mean, it's just because we're 7 years old,
Yeah. It's to Richard Gordon's point, it is not that we lost, but it's how we lost. And I cannot agree more. And, it seems to be that way more times than not. Like, I don't think many teams lose by by just 3 or 4 goals. There seems to be like a precipitous drop off though. Like once a team is down by 3 goals, it seems to snowball really quickly into that like 5, 6, 7 goal stretch. If you're not careful, it'll just get away from you, and it looks really bad. And the performance absolutely showed that. And I think it was really, had this happened last year, it'd be like, oh yeah, par for the course. But because Atlanta's been playing so great this season, and regardless of it being an international break and Almada being out and Robinson being out and Yakamaki's being out, you still expect them to be better than losing by 5 points on the road or not. Like, come on, right?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, I agree. I mean, I felt like Columbus had a lot of their spine taken out with Zelorian out, Deganak being out. They got Eloy Room being out. Who else? And Cucho Hernandez was injured.
Yeah.
I really felt that they were there to be taken regardless of our lineup. I guess we got a little bit too cute with who we started in the end. But I mean, you're going pretty deep down in the depth, and I honestly thought our depth was better. I thought Araujo was going to be better. I thought Sejdic was going to have a better night. But you're right. It was as soon as we got I think it was the 3rd goal, and Brad Guzan mentioned it in his presser afterwards. Like they basically just gave up. They just threw in the towel. Heads went down. There was no trying. But even though, when I saw Parada score that goal, which ended up being offside, I was like, oh, that's it. It's on. Comeback's on, baby. But of course, that
3 more in 10 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd had like a whole bunch of bourbon by then. So, 6-5. 6-5. Oh, no, 7-6. That would have been 7-6.
Yeah, it was ugly, man. And it was at every position. Like you said, it was like you expected at least positionally to be better than what the sum of their parts may have been. And I understand that like with the rotation, and you've got a different dynamic in that sort of middle 3 of Sejdic and Sosa and Ibarra there, trying to figure out who's really gonna fill in that role of pressing versus holding up play and containing and figuring things out, but you still expect them to be better than what it ultimately ended up being, because regardless of them trying to figure out what their roles were, none of them did anything. I feel like they just all got lost in space time and time again, and Columbus just had their way through the midfield. And again, at every position, it was like, even with Atlanta United losing in the past, for whatever reason, they still somehow managed to claw out the possession battle and maintain possession at the very least, and some semblance of control in the game through that metric alone. And they couldn't even contain the ball. It was like they would get the ball and immediately be dispossessed, or just they were playing clearances out of, like, it was just it was baffling to me how this team played at every level this weekend.
Yeah, it was just like that old guy you met a few years ago at Johnny's Hideaway. He just had his way with us. um, I mean, it's not all on the defending, even though the defending was absolutely terrible. I just rewatched the highlights, and on it seemed like every goal, Parada was just
I
looking
don't know how
around,
many balls they had go across the floor from one side of
missed
the
the
18
tackle.
all the way to the other across the face of goal,
Yeah,
untouched through
yeah,
four players.
yeah. It was bizarre. It was so bad. I mean, Noah Cobb 17 was starting at a center back. I mean, I feel bad for the kid. I don't think he could have arguably done. I mean, center back is such a difficult role. You've got to have so much really experience to be so impactful. So, man, it was just being let down all over the field, really. I mean, it, I can't believe I'm looking at the ratings on who scored. Aruju is our third, fourth highest player. I don't think I remember him touching the ball that
No,
much. I mean, I know he
no.
did. He had some dribbles, and I think he went down the flank a few times. But I mean, good gosh, he really worries me. I feel like after the game, his stock is really far down.
Well, especially
Um,
because that was, I mean, we talked about it last week. Like, out of every game so far to date this season, it's like there's been these other marquee players or positions that have sort of outshined his ability to really stand out, because Almada's been that good. Caleb Wiley's been scoring a ton of goals. Yakimakis is coming in and gets on the end of his goal, and everybody else is sort of outshining him. It's not that he's been bad per se. He certainly had moments that were less desirable than others, but overall, he's just been sort of lost in the mix. And you're right, Dan. Like, that game should have been his game to really increase his stock a bit and sort of be that standout and be that sort of lead player that the
yeah,
team
show
can
some
sort of
leadership.
rally behind. And he just wasn't it.
He just seems so emotionally fragile.
Yeah.
Like he's a definition of a flat track bully. I mean, he's gonna bully the weak opponents, and if anyone punches him in the mouth, then he's done. He's had enough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, we're 5 games in, so still a lot of season left to be played. But if it goes on similarly for the rest of the till the summer, surely they're looking to move him, and just like not. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. He's not going. We're not going to make a profit if he goes in the summer.
No,
But it's
especially
it's
whenever,
like
yeah.
opportunity cost with the DP spot. So
Yeah, and well, the bad thing is that Almada's going to set a new transfer record, and whatever profits that you've accrued through his transfer is going to almost be completely nullified by a loss on Almada at this, or on Arujo at this rate.
I think no, I think we're still.
Yeah, I was saying it tongue in cheek, obviously. So to Chris Fillingham's point,
So
is it
we're
a
paying
depth?
people to take him.
Yeah. Is it to Chris Fillingham's point, is it a depth issue, or are we really that bad? Do you think?
I think that I mean it was so bad, like everything was bad. I don't think I think you play this game 10 times. This is like the 10th
Yeah.
outcome. I think it. I mean, things
Like,
just fell like it's like when we beat New England 7-0. I mean, everything kind of lined up, stars aligned for us to get a scoreline like that. I feel like the same was true for this game. I mean, we had a ton of injuries, just basically did not went out there, got punched in the mouth once, and that was it. And
mhm,
we barely had anything to push against. It was, I think, Sam Jones has this whole thing that he got from interviewing Garth Lagerwey about. I think Lagerwey wants it to be like 9-2. So that means you have 9 starting caliber players and 2 who are um, less than starting caliber. And so I think from this lineup that we had, it was like a 7-4 or something, which is really bad. It drops way below the average.
yeah.
So when we're so low, and I don't think Columbus had that. I think they were probably closer to a 9-2. I mean, just everything aligned up. The mentality, zero leadership from the back. Braguzan saying they didn't even do stuff that they worked on all week in practice.
Yeah.
It was just an absolute garbage fire train wreck of a performance, really.
I don't know how as a team, like, what do you take away from that? Like, what's the conversation in the locker room coming off of a game like that? To your point, it's like, yeah, this probably is the one match out of 10 that sort of goes that way in the way that it did. But even still, you can't forget the fact that it's not one game out of 10. It's one game out of 5. It's a small sample size. Yes, you pick up and walk away from it. But at the same time, it's like, you know that these players are not going to be here long term and potentially not even through the end of the season. And the pieces that are going to remain are what we saw this past weekend. And that's the performance we got out of them. Like, how do you sort of pick up and recalibrate after something like that?
I think it's a kick. I think it's a punch in the gut. You have we're at the nadir, so you have nowhere else to go but up.
Mhm.
I mean, all of these players probably. I mean, I even got up Sunday morning. I was like, oh my god, did that really happen? I mean, imagine these guys playing on the field like, oh,
Yeah.
that was my career that I put out there, and it was awful.
Right. I mean,
So
there's very little, if anything, positive, I feel like. And normally there's something for me to take positive out of a game, whether it's a player that's gotten some meaningful reps or a play here or there. But by and large, man, it was just like everything from, I mean, just the pace of play, the possession or lack thereof, a lack of passing, a lack of pressing or containing defensively, a lack of any sort of offensive playmaking or development whatsoever. Like, any sort of attempts were just long balls sent over the top that maybe somebody got on the end of because they were clearing it out on the defensive side of the ball. Like, the midfield was Swiss cheese that Nagby was able to just hold the ball and walk up and down from 118 to the other almost untouched, taking on 2 and 3 guys single-handedly. It was awful, man.
yeah, it was terrible. But then I mean, the reverse is like last week we played
Yeah,
one of the best games we've ever
right.
seen. So I feel like the squad as a bunch of people have more so the better performance in them. I mean, I'll be shocked if we field this lineup again this season,
I would
barring an
hope not.
international break.
I would hope
So
not.
I take solace in that you know we're gonna have Miles back. There's Abram who's potentially could be a starter. The thing that really worries me right now is the Gutman injury.
Yeah.
How that goes down could be really affect the squad
Have
in
they said
general.
anything officially yet?
I haven't seen anything. I've heard it was a groin. That's
That's what
what.
I heard as well.
Um, and I've heard those are a few weeks, which
Yeah.
I guess a groin is better than a hamstring. I'm not sure. I am certainly no physiotherapist. So there's
Yeah, to Brittany S's point, I think that's ultimately what I mean by, like, what do you take away from this? Is it's like, I don't know how the team doesn't go into that game motivated with the opportunity for everybody to really have that standout game. And so, if that was their motivated performance to really have a showcase game and that was the product, that's what's disappointing. It's like they just had no fight in them whatsoever in that game.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, I don't think it was though. I don't think it was. I mean, I understand as I understand your point, it's guys having an opportunity, to put
Yeah,
your stamp on the squad. But as soon as that first goal went and the second one and third one came
yeah,
in pretty
yeah,
quick succession, then it's like, game over. And all the momentum was was over on Columbus. We had what,
Oh, it was
two
the entire
shots on goal?
match. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was on their side the entire match. Yeah, I think we had 3 shots on goal, or yeah, I think we had 4 shots total and only 2 on goal or something like that.
Yeah. I was relieved to get to halftime with just being 1-0 down. But then when so you think, you're gonna have a good team talk, we'll come out, we'll try
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
And then they immediately scored, and that was about it.
yep, yep. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's really tough.
Like I said, it's
But
just
I
and
think they use this as an experience of saying, well, this is how we don't play,
yeah,
right?
yeah, no, absolutely. It's just, I just don't know what you really say or take away from it. Do you know, I mean, Brad Guzan, like you said, had mentioned that they didn't even do what they had practiced and trained all week. They just were doing the simple things wrong. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's no excuse for a ball going past 4 defenders completely untouched from one side of the 18 to the other, not just once, but multiple times, leading to multiple goals. Like, I don't know how you excuse or deal with that on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, on within the context of the game, yeah. But I feel like outside of this, I feel like against the Red Bulls, we're going to have a better performance.
So
You know,
what are your expectations for that? I guess moving
um,
on, because I don't know that I've got anything else to say about the game this past weekend.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we need to acknowledge Eric Lopez getting subbed in. I feel that's
True.
kind of that goes with this game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're in a
And
game,
Brooks
you're
Lennon had a
subbing in.
goal. It wasn't a shutout. I guess that's the positive from this game. It wasn't a shutout. Brooks Lennon
Right.
does get a goal, a scrappy little goal, and if not for that offside flag, Parada would have had a second. But yeah, I mean, there's some light to be shined on this. I don't know if the Lopez play time is one for me personally, but
No. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even remember the last time I'd seen Lopez in a shirt, in an Atlanta United shirt. Or Tyler Wolf. I mean, Tyler Wolf
yeah,
came on.
yeah, yeah,
He's been with the squad for a long time, and a Johnny Fortune has more minutes than him. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know. It's just weird. I feel like there's a lot of things that aligned to make this performance what it was. I mean, it's not. I feel like a performance like this is not sustainable with the quality in the squad that we actually have.
No, I mean, even at Atlanta United's worst seasons, it's not like they were drumming up 6-1 losses regularly or at all. This
Right.
is like you said, this is the exception, not the rule. And yes, it's a
Right.
fluke, and I hope and really sincerely would like to think that it'll be a humbling experience for the team to build off of and springboard going into
Right.
this week with a much different set of circumstances in front of them, and I don't expect them to have that same performance with their key pieces back in the lineup. It's just more so concerning for the potential and the subsequent inevitability that lineup will likely be the lineup at some point in time in the future based on player turnover, or injury.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
They'll have gone through this experience.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it puts a lot of pressure. I mean, it still does. There's going to be a lot more fan expectation on when we play the Red Bulls next weekend. So I feel like you really want to get 3 points here. Luckily, it's back in Atlanta, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Saturday at 7:30.
We play them much, much better in Atlanta.
Have we still never beaten the Red Bulls in regular season?
Correct. We
Yeah.
have never beaten them. We've drawn twice, I think. But that is it. And it's pretty damning.
I do have another highlight from this past weekend.
Go for it.
Almada scored.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Wasn't in an Atlanta United kit.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen like videos of like just Messi went to a restaurant and they're like piling all around the restaurant and he can barely get in the front door.
No.
I mean, it's just insane. I mean, if you saw the start of the game against Panama,
yeah,
all the team and the whole stadium are like just praising him, like he's a god.
Crazy.
It's like, man. I mean, it depends where you put your faith, and when you put your faith in people, some things happen. But that was kind of like the first time in my life. I mean, I love soccer players and like England, and maybe if England won the World Cup, I'd be in the same point. But I was like, wow, that is a very weird.
I can't imagine what that does to your psyche.
Yeah. Well, luckily he's a pretty humble guy and has stayed pretty humble.
But still,
it's like, I mean, he is literally untouchable. He could probably go and do some heinous crime, but he would be okay.
Speaking of soccer superstars, I don't want to ruin too much of anything, but have you watched the latest season of Ted Lasso, or the latest episode?
Oh yeah. Well, I watched it last night with Zava.
Yeah. The parallels to a certain somebody it's been really great to watch. So
yeah, I was really disappointed with the first episode. I was like, oh, but then this last one was like, okay, that's much better.
Yeah.
So
okay, so looking ahead to Red Bulls, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so Red Bulls, they opened the season with Orlando and lost 1-0. Drew with Nashville 0-0. Drew with Minnesota 1-1. Beat Columbus 2-1. So
Columbus were leading in that game at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
I believe so.
And then they just drew with Charlotte 1-1. It was interesting, like just looking at the stats. I mean, it's funny looking at some of the pass maps, like the typical ones, like everyone's pretty much joined together. It's kind of like a pentagram with, a big triangle where the goalkeeper is. And then you look at Red Bulls and it's like maybe 4 direct passes from the goalkeeper all the way up to the striker. It's just such a bizarre passing map, because that's what they do, right? They don't care about that. They just want to go, press, turnover, they go to goal. I mean, that's what we do. We've seen it a million times. Atlanta United in the past have not been successful in being able to pass out the press unless it's, the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then you can beat them all day long. But, I mean, so Charlotte had 74% possession. Red Bulls 26%. But Red Bull still managed to put 6 shots on goal to Charlotte's 1. So, they're pretty efficient with the scraps that they get, just like a certain St. Louis team who are undefeated through five games. So there's a lot of that. I mean, the Red Bulls, it's just tough always playing Red Bulls because they play the same way. I feel like there's some sort of like mental block that we have against them, but we're going to have our full squad back up to strength. I'm really interested to see how Almada and the rest of the guys can see if they
we won't have our full squad, right? We don't think we're going to have Gutman back.
Well, that's true. But are you going to push Caleb Wiley back in the left back role? And then
I don't know, man. I did not like what I saw out of him in left back during. I mean, again, talk about it being a one-off game and everything else, but the little bit that I saw of Wiley in the left back role. I mean, I don't know what other options there are. To your point, I think it's gonna have to go that way. Wiley at left back, and then ETN up top,
Yeah.
left wing. But
I think it's going to be more defending for Brooks Lennon.
yeah,
Which, I mean, he's not a greatest defender, but I think that's probably, or if you can have, I mean, one option is you can always have Sosa there or midfielder be able to drop back into a back three and you can still push him up there. But I'm interested to see, surely, if he's going to be in that role just to get him on the field as another attacker, then him, and it'd be interesting to see how him and Etienne combine up the left back. Because I mean, Caleb's strong, Caleb's fast, Caleb can cross the ball. I mean, he really is becoming an excellent player. So I would look for a way to get him on the field. So
yeah,
maybe the Gutman injury does help solve a little bit of a problem, but it's going to be, obviously I don't want Gutman on the field.
Yeah. No, I agree. It'll be interesting. Bruno Kubas. So is this an excuse to switch Parada for Abram?
How did he? Does anyone know how Abram did in Peru?
I do
not. I can look. I mean, so long as Miles is good to go, you play Miles, right?
Yeah,
you always,
absolutely.
Dead taxes and you play Miles.
Absolutely.
Do you give Prado another go around? I mean, I would see how. I guess you could see how training goes. I mean, surely he's going to be chomping at the bit to.
I was going to say, if you're talking about giving somebody another chance after last week, it's like you're going to have to set the entire lineup with that logic. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, yeah, sure, why not play Abram?
I think Parada stays in. I think if it's not broke, don't fix it from the stand up or the position of a lineup before that Columbus match, where you try to get back to where the team was, sort of forget that Columbus game and just try to build on where they left off before the international break. You know, the team's still sitting in third in the East right now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. I think we're fourth now.
Fourth, you know, still off to a great start positionally, and you've got a lot of really positive things to build on outside of this last match. And if you've got 97% of that lineup back in retention, with the exception of Gutman, I think that's a good place to be and to continue that path forward. You know, even if that means Sosa's not getting the start, I think that's totally fine. You know.
Oh, absolutely. You play Sadic and Ibarra have played really good against Charlotte, so I would absolutely start those two.
I think it's Bruno Kubas actually asked that Sadic, Ibarra, or Josetu and Ibarra. I think Sadic, Ibarra personally.
Sadic, Ibarra. Yeah. So I mean, as long as it depends. I mean, Josetu played well when he was not injured and started the season. So I think, start Sadic, Ibarra, and then you can always sub in Rossetto if you need to.
Yeah. And Elliot even kind of echoes that too, that his thought is that Sadic is a little better than Josetu. And I tend to agree. I don't see too much of that lineup changing from what we had just a couple of weeks ago. I really don't, against Portland, except for the Gutman stuff.
So I think, so I was incorrect. We are third in the East. We've got 10 points. We've still got a goal difference of +3, which is great because we are tied with everybody else. +3 is the highest goal differential that is there. I mean, New England's at first.
+7 was looking really good, though.
It sure was, but so I'm not panicking. I think we just go again.
Yeah. No, we just got to reload and get back to business. You know, get everybody back home. I'm glad that we're not having back-to-back road games coming off of that. That at least helps. everybody can kind of get back indoors, and kind of work this thing out, and like try to rein it in a little bit. And this will
Yeah.
be interesting to see how Pineda handles it and handles the locker room and tries to handle some of the team mentality and focus. And I think you're going to find out really quick on Saturday where the team stands, because that was the other thing. Like that Columbus match, there was never a moment throughout that game where you thought that Atlanta was really fighting to get back into it.
Right.
They
Exactly.
never, from the first touch of the game, they were never going after the game.
Hmm.
They came out flat. They seemed just, Brittany has said it, no fight, whatever it is, whether they were just sort of, I don't want to say intimidated. I don't think that was it, but whether they were just uncomfortable because of the lineup changes and what the team was being asked to do, and maybe hadn't been used to that, or they were just, I don't know what it was, but in any case, I think that what you're going to see Saturday in that first 90 seconds of the match is going to tell you everything you need to know for the next 90 minutes of it. Because if Atlanta comes out the way that they were against Portland or in the other home games this season, with a really fast paced, high pressing attack going after everything against a Red Bulls team that wants to do the same thing and really forcing the issue on them, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup,
Hmm.
top to bottom.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how we do against them. I've been looking to kind of looking forward to that. It's like that one I want to see, and I really want to see Red Bulls play St. Louis, but that's not happening this
So, what
season.
do you think about St. Louis, man? I mean, have you watched any of their games? I mean, we've all seen the highlights, we've all seen the score lines. I mean, first, if I think it's the first expansion team to come in and win their first four or
Yeah,
five, whatever it is now.
that's
Um,
correct.
and doing it in convincing fashion, even if they are getting really strange back pass goals from defenses on a regular basis at this point, that it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of unnerving and seems a little scripted at this point, but nonetheless, like, man, you got to love it for the league, right? But at the same time, it's like, do you love it for the league? This team just comes in and lights it up in year one.
Yeah, I feel like it's when teams come in where they have players that are pretty unknown, when Atlanta came in the league, there were
Yeah.
some guys who were known around the league, but I feel like we had a lot more guys who were not.
Oh yeah,
Um,
especially whenever you consider Joseph Martinez's stint before he came here, and he got kind
yeah,
of rode out on the rail more or less.
and the advantage that you have when you're a new team coming in is you're really not beholden to many of the you've got a lot of flex in the salary cap. So and you'll have a manager in place, and then also you can literally build the team for the specific system that you want to play. And you're not dealing with legacy contracts that we've been dealing with, that Lagerway's been dealing with this off season, and we still have some of those. Um, so it's just a more advantageous to you. So I think that St. Louis have built a really good squad together,
Yeah,
and Klaus has totally fits the system to a T.
yeah.
And he's always like 10 feet tall, and has, is like from Brazil, carries an
What did
Italian passport.
what did Tim text us the other day about Klaus? Speaking
Yeah,
of which,
and he can just take advantage. He's fast, and he's
the
strong.
Wikipedia personal life, born in Brazil. Klaus is of German descent through
Mm,
his father and Italian descent of his mother. He holds an Italian passport. He's just sounds a little suspicious there. Nothing to see here.
right,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
So he's just. They've been very good. I mean, you can't if they keep this up. There's no way that you can dismiss this.
yeah.
So Elliot Beeben, Atlanta needs an attacking midfielder like Almada.
I was gonna say,
Yeah. The other thing is when I've seen people like when Almada gets sold in the summer, then this is what we've got. Well, that's not quite the same. We would have, you'd still have Yakomarcus, we'd still have Miles Robinson. I mean, I do think when Almada goes, there is no backup plan, but hopefully he can just sign a pre-contract and then be able to leave in the winter after we've won MLS
Yeah,
Cup.
that'd be great. That'd be great.
So,
So I know we're keeping it to a kind of shorter show here tonight. Any other thoughts? I guess we should do score predictions for this weekend. What are your thoughts? Atlanta hosting the Red Bulls this weekend.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say, as the eternal optimist, I'm gonna say a 2-1 Atlanta United win.
I think Atlanta still has a little bit of a hangover from this past weekend. I don't think they quite get it done. I still think they score a few, but I think that there's still a few too many holes in that backfield. I'm going to say a 2-2 draw.
Ooh, 2-2, 2-2, nice.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Gutman being out, how Wiley drops back, obviously Parada and the issues that he had. I think that offensively we get back on the right foot. I think that 2-goal number that you put out there is the right number for Atlanta. But I don't know how we line up defensively against a team that's going to want to high press and that struggled a lot this past weekend.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I really don't.
I think I mean, Red Bulls have only scored 4 goals.
Yeah.
So perhaps that helps us a little bit.
Let's see. We got a couple trickling in here. Brittany S. 2-1 Atlanta, echoing your sentiment, as well as Richard Gordon here. 2-1 Atlanta. Bruno Cubas also calling for the draw. 1-1 Atlanta.
I like that.
I like it.
I mean, I know Brittany S is always the eternal OG. She has always been here. I feel like Richard Gordon's been here a lot more recently.
Yeah. And Mills tuning in on Twitch the past couple weeks too, man. He's the Twitch warrior over there. So Mills coming in also echoing the 2-2 prediction here. Elliot Bevan also coming in with the 1-1 call as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully my MLS season pass will figure itself out. I don't know what's going on with it.
I don't know what.
It's literally that I went back and pulled up the Portland replay, every other team's replay. Like I have no issues with any content. I don't know if it's because I only partially watched the Columbus. For those of you listening, I went back to rewatch the match today, and I rewatched the first half on Apple TV earlier today, and then whenever I went back to watch the second half, I keep getting errors on it being unable to load the content. And no matter what device I use, I've tried multiple devices, I get the same error for the replay stream for whatever reason. But I can load every other piece of content across Apple TV and MLS Season Pass for every other replay for Atlanta United. I can watch the highlights on the match from Columbus. I can watch regular shows on Apple TV, everything. But for whatever reason, because I only partially watched the replay, maybe that's why, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
Brittany S saying, oh, that's a good one. Almada and GG for scorers. Who you got?
I'm going to go with a GG brace.
Ooh.
Bruno Cubas, did you turn on and off your TV?
I didn't, but I did blow in another iPhone and like blew in mine and then tried to stick them both on the charger at the same time to see if that would help, but still no luck.
Oh.
Yeah, Richard Gordon, Atlanta forced them to pull it down.
I'm fine with that.
I will say, because Almada's been so great with the link up play with Wiley, I think ETN gets on the end of one for his first, and it's a ETN for one and Yakamaki's for the second.
I love it.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. In the meantime, where can they find you, Dan?
You can find me at DNJMS.
Find me as well at the Architect. That's at the underscore ARC number one TECT. Find the whole gang over on Twitter at Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to get a notification each and every time we go live. I know we were a little late getting on here this evening, so if you hit that little bell icon, you will get a notification whenever we go live in circumstances like this evening when we may be running a little behind schedule, or we may just jump on for a surprise show or two here or there. So thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. As always, be home before dark.